Welcome to the Sweat, ladies and gentlemen. We are all insane. This is not a competition. To my left is Jessie, Coffield. To her right is Emerson, Lotzia. We'll be steering the ship for the next 60 minutes.
And riding shoddy tonight is a smorgasbord of sports analysts from hockey to golf to football and beyond. But it's our NBA panel taking the first spin. RotoWire's Alex Barutha and Karin Phillips from the New York Daily News.
Toodaloo to the All-Star break. We finally welcome back the association into our lives. So let's peep some of the big, beefy salaries for tonight's six-game slate, shall we? Brobot LeBron James says his playoff intensity level has been activated. And for $10,600, he can be all yours. He's up against the Rockets or pay down for his old pen pal, Kyrie Irving, who's 9-2 against the Bucks. Who's going Uncle Drew over LeBron? Maybe you, Alex?
Not me. I mean, I think we should understand that Kyrie has been playing really well, and that's worth mentioning. But when looking at the matchups here, the pace for these two games is about the same, so that makes the decision hard. But on the other hand, Milwaukee has the best defense in the league, while Houston has the 23rd best defense in the league. And when you consider that LeBron, when he actually is in playoff mode, and I'm going to choose to believe that he's entering that, when he's engaged, he's obviously the best player in the world. I think it's worth the chance here against Houston, because if he's really taking things up a notch, this is the lowest price we're going to get him at for a while.
Karin, I know you like to save money, but LeBron James saying he is dialed into playoff mode, that sounds kind of frightening.
It does, which is why I'm spending all my money on LeBron James.
Okay.
Look, you can look at matchups, you can look at history, you can look at analytics, you can look at numbers, you can look at past DK points. I don't care what you look at. You can look at a PowerPoint presentation or something. When that man says he's about to go off, he's about to go off. This team is what, 10th, 11th in the standings in the West? And they have to make it to 7th, because if they are 8th, that means they're going to play Golden State. And that's what quick 4 or 5 games, and he's out here. If you were LeBron and you're a Lakers fan, you're whether they played a different Nuggets. So if that guy's locked in, I'm willing to spend all my money on that guy every night until the last game of the regular season.
All right. Well, speaking of Golden State, Steph Curry is $9,000 against the Kings, and he's averaging 60 fantasy points per game against this season. But if you're in the saving mood, how about taking Ben Simmons at 7-9? Although the Kardashians have been embroiled in some serious drama, so I'm
ridiculous. Do not get her started on it.
Okay, I'm just saying. Ben Simmons, though, he's without Joel Embiid against the Heat. So who's the play here, Karin?
Listen, I agree with you about the Kardashian curse. I was watching Outside the Lines earlier, and they were trying to make it seem like it's some menial joke thing. No, it's real.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason why I'm picking Steph Curry. I'm picking Steph Curry because the Heat are playing the 76ers. And with Justice Winslow at point guard, he bullies Ben Simmons. And we saw it last year in the playoffs. So give me Steph Curry.
Alex, you want to go with Curry?
I think I'm going to choose to save the money here. I think that's an important point to bring up. Justice Winslow is going to give Ben Simmons a really hard time. But I think at the same time, we just heard that DeMarcus Cousins is probably not on a minutes limit anymore. He's going to be playing 30-plus minutes a night. And so I think, this is just speculation. His teammates are going to try to get him the ball against his former team. So I think I would rather take the chance on Ben Simmons having a big game with Joel Embiid out, saving a little money in that scenario.
All right, we got Devin Booker, $7,700 against the Cavs. Chris Paul, $100 cheaper, facing Lake Show. Who do you go with between the two, and why, Alex?
I do like Devin Booker here. He has struggled at points throughout the season, but Cleveland is so bad. I mean, the worst defense in the league. If there's any spot for Booker to get back to his usual self, it's here. And I'm still not convinced Chris Paul that the Rockets want Chris Paul to be playing 30-plus minutes a night. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him under that mark. The same, I don't think, can be said for Devin Booker. So ultimately, I would prefer Booker in this situation.
All right, Karin, what goes into your decision here?
Last time we saw, Chris Paul play against the Lakers, what happened? It was one of the best moments of the season. I'm going straight pettiness on this pick. The CP3 revenge game. Like that, we know how that guy holds a grudge. He hates like almost everybody in the league besides LeBron, Carmelo, and D Wade, who are his boys, or unless you're on his team. I'm picking CP3. It's a big first game back after the break, big TNT game. The Rockets need to really get rolling so they can, get better positioning in the playoffs. I'm going all in on CP3.
All right, guys, Jusuf Nurkic is the most expensive center at $7,400 against the Nets. Hassan Whiteside, who won't have to battle against Joel Embiid, is $6,700. So who do you like more tonight, Karan?
I would usually go with Nurkic, but since Embiid might not play, give me Whiteside because, when Whiteside's on the court and Embiid's on the court, he's a mess. Like, Joel Embiid pays rent in his head, but when he's not out there, Whiteside can be the guy we all hoped he can be consistently, where he can give you points, rebounds, blocks, and all of those things. So give me him tonight with Embiid maybe sitting down on the seats.
Alex, you want to save the money with Whiteside?
I think I do, actually. I really don't like playing Whiteside because it feels like he burns me every time I play him. And I do have worries about the 76ers going small to try to counter that and trying to run Whiteside off the floor. But on the other hand, the Trailblazers just got Enes Kanter, and I think they're going to do what they can to get Kanter 20, 25 minutes, and that would probably come at the expense of Jusuf Nurkic minutes. So I would rather wait that situation out. I think this is a spot, one of the very rare spots that I would hope that Whiteside could get me 50, maybe even 60 DraftKings points in a matchup that normally wouldn't exist.
Hey, Alex, real quick, we got some people interested on Facebook with Joel Embiid out. I mean, who holds down the center position? Is there anyone worth considering for the 76ers?
I think it's kind of going to be a collective effort. I really, personally, I like Jonah Bolden. He's got a three-point stroke. He's a great athlete. The 76ers haven't shown a lot of confidence in Amir Johnson. I think Boban Marjanovic is a solid, flyer play. He can put up a lot of DraftKings points in a few minutes. So if I was picking a lower price guy to take a flyer on, it would be either Jonah Bolden or Boban.
All right, Karan. CJ McCollum's been held to under 30 DK points in 3 straight games, hence why his asking price is only $6,600 now. But Kelly Oubre is 5'8". Which player makes more sense?
You know what? I usually like to save my money, but I'm in a spending mood today.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Because NBA has been off for so long, and I'm still depressed about Zion Williamson last night. So you know what? Let's just make bad decisions, and let's put my money on CJ McCollum. Like, he can't keep playing this bad, and his numbers aren't going to be this low. He's got to break out of that slump at some point. So I have very good trust in CJ McCollum earning me my money back tonight.
Hey, Karan, I got some good news for you. Field Yates tweeted about 5 minutes ago that Duke announced Zion Williamson has a grade 1 right knee sprain, and he's day-to-day. So kind of the best outcome. That looked really bad.
Yep.
So don't be too upset.
That reminded me of like last year, Marvin Bagley had like the same thing, only missed like 4 games, and he's doing fine.
Yeah.
So maybe this is some good news for Knicks fans,
Yeah.
Hawks fans, Sun fans, everyone that's tanking.
Everyone exhale now. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
Everybody
We're good to go.
relax.
He'd be smart.
Nike is like, yes.
He'd be smart if he didn't play the rest of the season. That's
Yeah.
all I'm
If
saying.
I'm Paul George, I want some new shoes though, because that
Yeah.
was a really bad luck last night.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for Adidas. Let's just say that. Alex, real quick, what'd you think? McCollum or Oubre here?
Yeah, McCollum's another guy like Whiteside that I almost never play in DFS because I feel like I can never get him to hit value. So in this case, I will go Oubre, largely because of the Cavaliers' poor defense. And we've seen Oubre go for 40, 50 DraftKings points. We know his upside's high, potentially close to 10 times value. I would take the risk there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, you
Great.
two, we're going to give you a nice break now, so please enjoy it. We're going to see you for Celtics Bucks showdown picks later in the program. We're reading the green with Reed T. Fowler after this.
What's going on? I'm Tara Lanazak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. With the All-Star break behind them, the NBA's biggest stars return to the court for the stretch run. But one star we likely won't see a lot of is Anthony Davis. After not getting the trade he requested, Davis has made it known he wants to sit out the rest of the way. The Pelicans would love to accommodate him, but the NBA has this thing against healthy star players not playing. According to Mark Stein of the New York Times, acting GM Danny Ferry will attempt to convince the NBA to rethink their position of forcing the Pelicans to play Anthony Davis. At this point, New Orleans may be willing to take any fines the NBA would dish out just to protect their most valuable asset. What does this will they or won't they with the NBA and Davis mean for fantasy owners? Well, sorry, you are definitely stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Davis saga continues to move forward, and we'll have to see how the NBA will respond.
The WGC-Mexico Championship teed off earlier today, and Emerson and I are just dying to know what our golf
really are.
panelist, DK Live's Reed Fowler, thought of round one.
Yeah, can you read the green for us?
Yes, I can. Is your mic working there, Jessie? A little beep, beep, beep.
Yeah,
Working?
That's
I heard her.
Emerson.
I heard her say that.
He does that sometimes because
Nope.
he's
Oh,
weird.
got it.
All right. Anywho, after what you saw today, which golfer were you the most right about in your predictions throughout the week? I mean, you're a smart man.
Yeah, this is also going to be a knock on Mr. Ulrich here.
Yes.
Again, a guy who is not here to defend himself. Perfect situation for me is fading Mark Leishman. I mean, the guy's at +4 right now. Strokes gained approach, putting not necessarily there at all. And this is what you worry about, right? When a guy comes off a really good week, chasing those finishes or chasing a previous performance on a course that's completely different gets you in this type of mood and or gets you in this type of situation. And at +4, +5, look, there's no cut, right? So he's not out of it. But you can't win a tournament in the first day. You can definitely lose it. And +4, +5 in this elite field is going to be tough. So fading Mark Leishman and then potentially pivoting off of guys like him to like Matt Kuchar, who's doing really well, and fading the noise on potentially him not doing well in Mexico after all of that bad publicity are the two things that I think that I got right, which again is small in terms of what I got wrong this week.
And I believe Phil Mickelson was Jeff's Slater Brew pick.
Yes, it was.
Well, Reed, my follow-up question was going to be, who were you the most wrong about?
Yeah, it's going to be Webb Simpson. I really liked him. Obviously, again, this is the first out of 4 days with a no-cut event, so this could all switch, but he's right there at like that +3, +4 range. Just hasn't got the putter going, and that's what we saw from Webb last season, is that he really got his putter going. Obviously, we know that in these elite fields and these tough courses, he does well. He's won a major, he's won the Players, and this is a very player-esque or Pete Dye type course where you need to put the ball in the right position off the tee. You don't need distance, then obviously your approach needs to be firing. And Webb Simpson right now, he's got a bogey and a double, and all other holes are pars, no birdies. And that's really what you need at this course. We saw Rory, Dustin, JT all fire at around a -8, -7 today. That's really, the conditions are perfect, right? I mean, outside of what we saw with California at Pebble and then at Riviera, these conditions are the exact opposite. Yes, they're at altitude, and yes, there's some wind, but it's completely sunny. These guys should be going at -6, -7 if they want to stick around. And Webb at +3, not good.
All right, so were you surprised by anybody's ownership levels? Like maybe a guy you thought would be super chalky who people ended up actually staying away from?
Yeah, I'm surprised with Stenson is someone that we talked about earlier in the week that obviously with current form didn't come in with 3 missed cuts on the European Tour, but at $7,200, if you just look at the range that he was in, he was clear-cut the most talented player in terms of name recognition and just in terms of skill. And this course, again, this is what we said last year as well, sets up pretty nicely for a guy like Henrik who doesn't use his driver. He just uses his 3-wood off the tee, even on longer courses like Augusta, like other courses that you would need driver or driver-heavy course. And Stenson came in at around 7 to 10%. And clearly everyone was scared off of that current form. And that really goes right to that argument of, do you do course history, or do you weigh course history a little bit more? Or do you weigh current form? And in this case, most people, and rightfully so, he's at +2, +3, I believe, at 7%. He's someone that I'm surprised wasn't at least in the double digits, around 14 to 15%.
Yeah, currently T5, +1 in the first round, better than guys like Ricky Fowler and Patrick Reed, and 7 strokes better than Phil Mickelson, who you rostered.
Who's winning that?
I don't know. We're going to read the next question.
Let's look ahead, though, Reed. What's your strategy for the Friday showdown? I know Emerson wants to know.
Yeah, exactly, right. Great shirt, by the way, Emerson. Look, Friday showdown, what you always want to do, especially after the Thursday to Friday, I think that's really the sweet spot there, is you look at guys, really good strokes gain approach or birdie or better gain stats. Fantasy National, a tool that I use quite a bit, does this where they do live statistics. You want to get those guys who are obviously hitting their irons really well, getting birdies, but then the putting isn't exactly there. We know that putting can switch day to day, and that's really what you want to see. Guys who, like, Like a Keegan Bradley, for instance, is someone that strokes gained approach was high, but just his putting was like 60th out of 72 or 70 or however many guys are in the field right now. His strokes gained was about, I think, in the top 10 or top 15 so far. And so he's somewhere at around -1, -2 in that range, at like the T20 area that could really vault up if that putting switches. And that's really the equalizer at this course is your putting really needs to be key because you can 3-putt from 4 feet away. There's a lot of undulations, a lot of hills on these greens. And so Keegan Bradley is someone that I'm looking into for Friday Showdown.
All right, Reed, Slater-proof pick for round 2.
Yeah, it's going to be Bryson DeChambeau. Like, he's not doing really well at all. I mean, he's at a +2 around there. But, again, he's in that field, right? That strokes gained approach is high and just the putting is not there. I think he equalizes it. So give me Bryson.
Alrighty, great stuff, Reed. So next time we have you on, you're actually going to be talking football with Pierce. That's after we put this show on ice with our sticky puck panel.
What?
I hate you.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The switch has been flipped for LeBron James according to, well, LeBron James. The Lakers star is about to kick off the post-All-Star break leg of his season, and his squad have to put it into overdrive as they are currently on the outside looking in at the Western Conference playoff picture. When asked about having the intensity going forward through the rest of the regular season, James told reporters, quote, "It's been activated," unquote. Los Angeles is 3 games back of the playoffs in the West with 25 games to go. That's manageable, but they do have the 4th toughest remaining schedule in the NBA, according to ESPN. They'll begin their playoff push on Thursday when they host the Rockets. The recently activated James is worth $10,600 for this matchup and is averaging 53.5 DK points per contest.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 11 games on the docket tonight in the NHL. That's like 22 teams. And we have Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com here to talk about it.
And you said you were bad at math.
I know. Look at the beanie. A little
Yeah,
chilly where
loving
you
the
are,
hat,
eh?
Chris.
I go with the Devil's hat tonight. Why not?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, love it. All right, well, it sounds like this is actually a great time to play NHL Price Check. So, can you just say this guy's name?
Me, Alexander Barkov.
Barkov. He's $7,000 against the Hurricanes. He's coming off back-to-back 10-plus DK point games. How much do you like his price tonight, Chris?
His price is actually pretty solid. I mean, look, Florida's playing out the string. They're playing well in the sense of, offensively. And Barkov's finally hit a stride again, which is great news for DK owners because for a while it was getting ugly. I mean, we were seeing a lot of nights where you'd only have like maybe 1 and 2 shots on goal a night and just not a lot of opportunities. Now the opportunities are coming, and tonight he should get quite a few of them against the Carolina Hurricanes, an old Southeast Division sort of battle where both teams are expected to give up at least 3 goals.
Okay, well, Vladimir Tarasenko, 12-game point streak. That was snapped on Tuesday, I know. But the good news is he can start a new one tonight against the Stars. So what makes you think he's worth $7,500, or maybe you don't?
Normally I would say yes, but I'm a little bit hesitant tonight only because how long does this St. Louis streak continue? I mean, we're at 11 games now. Looked really good the other night. Tarasenko actually had a point that was taken away, unfortunately, much to the chagrin of a lot of us who owned him. But that being said, Anton Hudobin's starting for Dallas because Ben Bishop is not quite ready yet. So his price is decent enough. I wouldn't say it's an automatic play, however.
All right, well, TJ Oshie will have a tough matchup tonight against Frederik Andersen of the Maple Leafs, but he's only $5,400. Do you think he's got a chance to be a solid, cheaper play here? I mean, he only skated 16 minutes on Monday against the Kings. He's sort of working on an upper body injury, so what do you think?
Yeah, the upper body injury is not optimal. It's something that has lingered for a little while at least, and some are speculating that it may be that pesky shoulder that bothered him in last year's playoffs. That being said, though, Toronto's not a half bad matchup, especially their bottom lines, and I believe no Nazem Kadri tonight either. So you won't have to worry about going against him at least, and it may be worth a shot. It's literally DK average price for a player that probably is a little bit above.
Brent Burns is the most expensive defenseman. But hear me out here. Hear me out.
Jeez, all right.
He could be worth it because the Sharks are facing Pittsburgh's Casey DeSmith, who has been super gross lately, giving up 3 or more goals in 7 of his last 8 appearances.
Trash.
Disgusting.
Garbage.
Chris, is Burns worth the price of admission at $7,000?
At this point in juncture, Burns is always worth the price of admission. Think about this for a second. His last 10 games, he's averaged 5 shots a game and nearly 4 blocks. So right off the bat, if you're doing quick math, that's about 4.5 DK points automatically. You're not going to get that in many places, period, on this slate. So if he adds an assist even, well, you just exceeded value with your $7,000 defensive pick. And if he does a little bit more, because, yeah, Pittsburgh's penalty kills about 76% over the last 15 games, I think you're doing pretty darn good tonight.
All right, Chris. Well, Corey Schneider has not been good this season, but he has recorded 2 straight wins, and he's facing the struggling Senators.
Oh.
So do you see him being a good play for 7,600?
Okay, the game of the night that nobody wants to admit is the game of the night because nobody knows who is even playing. All right, to recap this real quick. For the Senators, it looks like right now there is no Ryan Zingle, there is no Mark Stone, and there is no Matt Duchene in the lineup. For the Devils, there's no, right now at least at this as of this moment, there is no Marcus Johansson in the lineup. They are all being held out because they could be traded at any time tonight or sometime over the weekend. In short, that makes Corey Schneider a very intriguing play tonight at his price point. The only problem that you're going to have with Schneider is he even going to see enough shots? Because, look, Ottawa literally just put their lines together at the last possible second. Warm-ups are about to take place in 7 minutes. And that makes it extremely dicey. That being said, look, Schneider has stopped 48 of his last 49 shots. That's pretty darn good. And he's looked the best that he has in a calendar year. Is he over the hip surgery finally? I will say this, guys, not yet. This takes a long time to recover. It took Roberto Luongo almost a full year from when he had the surgery to fully feel like himself.
Slate approved pick time. Who's your lock play of the night? I know you got this.
Oh, I love to go with this only because it's crazy enough to work.
Let's go.
We're going completely off the reservation tonight with none other than Kyle Palmieri.
What?
That's right, kids. That's right. We're going Homer.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
the beanie
Thursday.
gave it
We
away.
can get a little wild here. It's a crazy slate with all the scratches and everything. We thought about Edmonton, but since everybody in Edmonton seems to be crapping their pants, yes, there's a flu outbreak in Edmonton, by the way. It's affected the Islanders and the Oilers. There could be several players each out tonight. My pick pivoted to Kyle Palmieri because A, he's healthy, and B, he can score goals against Ottawa. He's had 4 goals in his last 3 games against them.
Been there before.
The coaches have not shied away from telling the media exactly what's going on with their players.
Be open with us.
All right. Have a great night, Chris. We have NBA Tears of Joy coming up right after this NASCAR price check.
Welcome to Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Atlanta, whose salary jumped up this week. Kyle Larson, $7,800 up to $9,300. The new package, not his style. He likes the overpowered, out-of-control cars. His days at these 1.5-mile tracks, they might be over. Joey Logano, $10,400 up to $11,700. Harvick is number 1 at Atlanta. 2 and 3, it's the Penske cars. Kyle Busch, $9,600 up to $10,500. This package races a lot like the Truck Series, and Busch is the greatest truck racer of all time. Whose salary dropped this week? Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $9,800 down to $7,500. This might be the year of Stenhouse. The new package, even playing field, and that's how Stenhouse won 2 races. Clint Bowyer, $9,900 down to $9,100. We all know about the big 3, but did you know 4th fastest car last year on green flag laps? It was Clint Bowyer. Alex Bowman, 8,000 down to 7,300. The new package, it's like a restrictor plate. What's the best restrictor plate car? The 88 over the last 5 years. Favorite play of the week, Kevin Harvick, 12,200. He owns Atlanta. Last 5 Atlanta races, over 90 fantasy points. Don't worry about the new package. They'll figure it out. Matt DiBenedetto, 7,600. This car's in a technical alliance with JGR. Do you remember the last team to have a technical alliance with JGR? It was Little Old Furniture Road Racing, and they won a championship. All right, guys, check out the DK Playbook for your DFS information and needs. If you've got NASCAR questions, hit me up on Twitter at @RaceForThePrize. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Catch me on DK Live.
Time to ball out with DK Live's Julian Edlow and from Awesemo.com, Chris Spagnuolo. Gents, it's Tears of Joy. So let's get to this first tier. It's got James Harden, Giannis, who's listed as probable.
But it sounds like he's going to go.
LeBron James. LeBron says the intensity is turned up now, so strong words. I mean, Julian, does that mean you have to pick him?
Yeah, actions are going to be stronger than words here. And until I see the Lakers start locking in on defense, I'm not buying it. LeBron and Giannis had some momentum coming into the All-Star break. Giannis had an 80-something DK point game. LeBron 70-something, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going with Harden here. He's the higher salaried player in Classic tonight. And he's been tremendous against the Lakers this season, even with guys like Chris Paul and Clint Capella on the floor. Harden averaging 74 DK points in 3 games against the Lakers this season. They've been letting up 1 million points to teams like the Hawks, teams like the Sixers. I think it was 143 or 146, whatever they let up a couple of games before the break. So I still have to go Harden here. I think he just has the better matchup, the higher ceiling. Harden's floor is right around an average game for these other two guys.
Chris, you don't want to take LeBron at his word here?
Yeah, normally I'd say LeBron's word is pretty much half branding, half drama for the sake of some reality show he's doing for Uninterrupted. But I actually do buy in with LeBron here. Before the All-Star break, 2 out of his last 3 games were above 70 fantasy points. I think you could tell the difference between an engaged LeBron and a disengaged one. And I think we're seeing him lock in. I mean, he's really the only hope for the Lakers to make the playoffs right now, which he's been acknowledged as part of these quotes. So I'm buying in. I agree with Julian, though. The other guys look like great plays. Harden also looks like a great play. So I think you can't go wrong with any of the 3. But I'm taking LeBron at his word, and I think he could have a big day here versus Houston.
Chris, let's jump down to tier 4. You got Chris Paul, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, De'Aaron Fox, DeAndre Ayton, Larry Nance Jr. Who's the best option?
So I think a lot of people overlooking this Philly-Miami game because it's one of the lowest totals on the slate, but still pretty decent number overall from Vegas there. And Jimmy Butler is the guy I'm going to go with for that reason. I think he's had the biggest boost so far when Embiid's been off the floor. And Joel Embiid is going to be out for at least the next week, it looks like. So I think Butler's going to have the full run of the house. He also shares minutes in the second unit, or the second group rather, off the bench when Embiid takes an early bench sitting. So Butler's going to get that usage as well without Embiid there. I think it all bodes well for him, and I think he's going to go under the radar as a low-round play tonight.
Jules, who lands on your roster from tier 4?
Yeah, Spags is right on about this Miami-Philly game. The numbers might not be there in terms of the total, but it's a close point spread, and no Joel Embiid for Philly. When Joel Embiid is off the floor, Jimmy Butler has been the guy, so I have to ride with Jimmy Butler here. He's probably going to see the largest bump in usage. The only new wrinkle here is that we do have Tobias Harris in the mix, and we've yet to see what Philly really looks like with Butler and Harris kind of being the 2 go-to guys with Embiid off the floor. So if you're going to make an argument for anybody else here, I think it's his teammate, and you kind of make a pivot play to what I would expect to be a lower-owned Harris and say that maybe Harris steps up as the go-to scorer. But I think Jimmy Butler is by far the safest play here.
All right, let's do a quick remix on that question. Who do you like the least in tier 4, Julian?
Anybody that's not a Philadelphia 76er, honestly. I'm just going between Butler and Harris here, but just to pin down an individual, probably Larry Nance, because that Cavs rotation's been all over the place. Kevin Love has had some time to get healthy over the All-Star break. They're just a mess. We have no idea what the Cavs are going to look like.
Chris, who do you like the least in tier 4?
It's going to be De'Aaron Fox for me. I think that's obviously the highest total game on the slate with the Kings and the Warriors. But De'Aaron Fox, to me, doesn't grade out as a great matchup for him. I think he's an okay play from a salary perspective if you're playing a regular game. But for tiers, I'd rather go elsewhere. I think just the Kings are going to have that usage flow in some other directions. I think with Fox, we're getting probably the least high ceiling play out of that entire tier.
All right, for all you guys watching at home, by the way, Gordon Hayward officially ruled out tonight for the Celtics against the Bucks. But moving on here, Chris, who do you like the most in tier 5?
So for the same reasons, I don't like De'Aaron Fox. Buddy Hield is a guy I like here. Buddy Hield's actually been pretty good versus the Warriors so far this year. In all 3 games, what's more important to me is the opportunity. He's seen 21 shots in all 3 of the games versus the Warriors so far. Harrison Barnes would take a little bit off the table from him, but I think Buddy Hield, they know they need his scoring here. He's really the only shot they have, the only guy who can be a high volume scorer to keep up with the Warriors. I think Buddy's in a good spot, and I like his potential.
All right, for you, Angelo Manis on Facebook, that answers your question. Start Buddy Hield, ? Chris just answered it for you. Jules, tier 5, who do you like?
Yeah, honestly, there are like 4 guys in tier 6 that I wish I could have over anyone in tier 5, but that's not how this works. So you got to go with someone. I'll go with Chris Middleton here. I think he's in a really solid spot against the Celtics. He's such a consistent play. He gets you between 28 and 35 DK points. He's actually averaging almost 38 DK points in a pair of contests against the Celtics already this season. So I just think this is kind of a lackluster tier. Middleton just seems like a solid, safe option, so I'll go with him.
All right, finally, Julian, who would you pick from tier 6?
Yeah, well, Boogie Cousins is the obvious guy here. He's one of the best plays on the Classic slate tonight. His minutes are going to be increased coming out of the All-Star break now that he's had some time to rest that Achilles, so they're really going to kind of unleash DeMarcus Cousins here, and he gets the perfect matchup for it. He gets a paced-up matchup against the Sacramento Kings, the team that he started his career with, so a little bit of a revenge narrative there against them. He had a huge game against them in his first game with New Orleans following that trade a couple years ago, so DeMarcus Cousins for me, but this is a pretty loaded tier. There's a lot of guys you can go with here, I think.
Chris, tier 6.
Yeah, I'm with Julian. It's got to be DeMarcus Cousins. As Julian mentioned, it's actually been 3 games he's had versus the Kings since leaving town, all with the Pelicans, so it's a bit of a different situation. But he really pushed the usage up. I think it was over 62 fantasy points in all those games, over 80 in one of them. So he's been a monster. I don't think he's going to hit quite those highs today. We saw him put up 17 shots in that last game he had before the break versus Utah. That was a much worse spot. So I think you're going to see him push the usage up. He's doesn't have a minutes cap now. Everything looks really good for Boogie. So team DeMarcus Cousins today.
Guys, bonus question for you. Big Al asking on YouTube, Jimmy Butler or Tobias Harris tonight to pick up the slack for Philly? Julian, what do you think?
Oh, we kind of answered that one. I'm going Jimmy Butler, but from a GPP ownership perspective, I think Harris makes for a nice pivot play.
Same, Christopher?
Yeah, it's same for me. I think Jimmy Butler's in a great spot. Tobias Harris, though, you're not going to go wrong going with any of these guys. There's a lot of usage that Joel Embiid just leaves behind.
All right, you guys are on top of your game. We appreciate it. Excellent work. So get ready because we're going to have you both back, along with Karin and Alex, for Showdown Picks, that Celtics-Bucks game. That's our last block of the show. Get excited for that. Plus, we're talking NFL Chase or Fade after a quick visit to the PME studios.
We have Thiago Marreta Santos taking on Jan Blachowicz. Thiago Santos, 8,500 and a minus. It's minus 110. Pick them straight across the board. Lots of line value, at least from a DK perspective, on Jan Blachowicz, who's 7,700. Blachowicz, pretty underrated guy, and he's insanely durable. I see lots of paths to victory for this guy here. Like, this actually feels to me like this is basically the exact same fight that Jan's coming off of. Nikita Krylov, excellent kicker, guy who likes to fight at range, guy who, if he does crack you, can definitely send you into orbit. No question. There is risk to be had in this spot, but Jan is just super, super durable. He slows down the pace of the fight, but this is supposed to be 5 rounds. I don't think Thiago Santos has 5 rounds in him. 3 rounds at most. Usually it's more like 2 rounds. And if we're fighting on Jan's terms, if Jan gets this fight to the ground, he may not have like the best guard passing and stuff like that, but like he gets you down there, he holds you down there, he stalls you there, and he can really, I think Jan is the play here 100% on DraftKings. I don't even hate him as a bet, to be perfectly honest. I think he is the type of kryptonite that causes Thiago Santos problems. A guy who is durable, is going to be able to eat the damage that is being thrown out at him, and has a decent ground game and a more or less a well-rounded game altogether. This all being said, it's still going to be a little bit scary, a little bit dangerous. Thiago Santos kicks so damn hard that if he lands one, he lands it flush. Well, that's all she wrote. You can probably knock out just about anyone. But Jan has all of the tools. I see them all there for him to pull up. I won't even call it an upset victory because it's a straight pick 'em from the betting line right now. But to be a dog that comes through on DraftKings.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, he's a pretty good price considering that it's a pick 'em as far as the money line goes, yet you're getting him for a significantly lower price, like $800 less than his opponent, then yeah, how could you not look at that as being value? I hear what you're saying with Thiago Santos, because I agree in pretty much all regards, is that this is a guy that goes out super entertaining. How could you not like this guy if you're a real fight fan? He goes out, puts it on the line, generally blasts his opponent. If you're able to kind of weather that early storm, you're able to put it on him because he has such a trepid pace that he puts on his opponents, and he's such a, you know, a muscular, heavy power punching type of fighter. He tires out. He seems like if this is a 3-round fight, you'd be way more confident in him, that maybe he can go out, win the early couple, first and second round, and if he does tire and Jan starts to work his way back in, like he often does,
he just has to survive
fine
for a 3rd round, right?
But for 5 rounds, that's a tricky situation, because not only can Jan Blachowicz usually take anybody's best punch, as you mentioned, super durable. He's super durable. He is a real 205er, so you know that extra power or that extra size. All the same, I see the path to victory, like you're mentioning, $7,700, good price. He's just got to be able to do what he does and take that early storm. He's been stopped one time due to strikes. My boy So Could You back in KSW way back when. But, you know, that was a leg kick stoppage, and he's come a long way since then. So 35 years old kind of worries me. But to be honest, Thiago Santos is 35 years old, and he's a lot more war-torn from all of his notorious wars. So I think Jan will be a little bit of a fresher fighter as well. And in Europe, especially, if there is going to be a hometown cooking, I get
they're country to country. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but
I don't know. I can see it. I could see it.
Jan's from Poland.
Yeah, who knows?
All right, some small breaking news here. Reed Fowler has committed to playing the inaugural DraftKings flag football game this weekend. But first, we've got to play some NFL chaser fade, and our good friend Pierce Dietrich has joined him as well.
Wow, that is breaking
It's going to be
news.
huge. He's going to be all-time
A lot of
quarterback.
people care about that.
A lot of people do. All
That's
right,
why
guys.
it was quick.
Le'Veon Bell will officially become a free agent because the Steelers will not place the franchise or transition tag on him. But today, the New York Daily News reported Bell ballooned to 260 pounds during the past year while he wasn't playing.
He was just sitting out chilling.
Just for reference, he's usually around 225. Now, obviously, we don't know where he'll land, but Chaser Fade, Bell is due for a down year, Pierce.
I'm going to fade this, and I'm not even going to talk about this. Let's look at the real story here. And has anyone looked at the source of this story? It's from a Jets mailbag article. And when the guy mentions it, he just says, hey, word on the street. He doesn't give a source. He doesn't say someone within the Jets organization. It's completely false. It's made up, and people are reporting like it actually happened. His trainer denies it. This is the Jets floating a story, trying to scare people away from Le'Veon Bell, driving down his price. There's no source to this story.
Hot take. All right, Reed, obviously, you know, talking about someone's weight, little dicey, but we're just talking in terms of fitness. He's clearly not in fighting shape right now. So, or according to Pierce, this is all a lie. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you go down to South Beach and you record an album and like that, you're sitting on the couch, like that could happen. And look, like Pierce was saying, at 260, now you're getting to this spot where you're like LeBron James's weight at like 265, 270, and I find it hard to believe a guy who's demanding all of this money, putting himself in a position where he cannot fail, because then obviously if he does, he's not worth it, yada, yada, yada. But it's not necessarily to sort of go on this question. It's not necessarily about the weight that would even concern me if I was chasing that he would have a down year. I think really in terms of agreeing with Pierce here and fading this, the year off does him well, right? If he gained 45 or 35 pounds, I don't care about that if I'm a GM or a team. I care that he got a year off because 2017, he saw the most total carries that he had in his career. And when you have a guy like that who has all of this wear and tear on those knees and everything, I mean, he had over 400 total carries, and that's a ton for a guy like Le'Veon Bell. So that year should do him well off, as opposed to gaining 20. He's an elite athlete. Even if that's true, this is not like a Eddie Lacy type deal. It's not a Rashad Penny in his rookie season Lendell White. Right. This is not the case.
But
exactly.
As Pierce said, his trainer is denying it. But Bell did have conditioning and weight issues, guys, while he was at Michigan State. But remade his body upon entering the NFL. Hasn't had issues with it since. As
He was a
Pierce,
college kid.
hey, aren't we all? Hey, I was like 260
Yeah,
pounds
but
in
he's
college.
like the I don't have a manager anymore. I can't be managed.
Yeah.
Like this Pat.
Yeah,
you don't know what
college
he's been up
Emerson
to.
was probably this. Like that was if you can't follow Emerson and he has it in the archives, please Emerson share that with the
Find
world.
it on my Instagram. He was a jolly old fellow. Reed, the 49ers seem to be the favorite to land Antonio Brown. If they pull it off, they'll have a revamped offense with Jimmy G returning. So chase or fade. If they get Brown, the Niners are actually Super Bowl contenders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it's too early to say that they're contenders. I will say, obviously, it moves the needle way towards that. And we know this, right? We know that wide receivers don't make Super Bowl teams. I mean, the Patriots are the clear-cut example. Yes, Julian Edelman is probably going to be a first-ballot Hall of Famer, especially with what he's done over the past couple of years of his career, despite him, right, whatever you think about him in terms of what he's able to do. But that's not what makes a team. It's really the offensive line. And San Francisco, right, last year, even with all the injuries, per DVOA, they were 10th, right? They were ranked 10th. And so we don't think necessarily of San Francisco as this offensive powerhouse, but really good offensive line. Their adjusted sack rate was not that good. It was above in the 20s. And so they do have to shore up some stuff, especially right tackle. But it really comes down to the offensive line, defensive line. That's where they really need help. So even if they don't land a guy like potentially OBJ, who's rumored to potentially want to be out there, and the 49ers aggressively going after him last season, even if they don't get one of these guys like AB, OBJ, who can clearly make a difference, it's really that offensive defensive line along with, a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who clearly is a talented coach. And so at plus 45 around where their Super Bowl odds are, it's not a bad bet.
All right, Pierce, let's think about this. Brown could take that offense, which also includes young standouts like Jerick McKinnon at running back, George Kittle at tight end, to another level, yes? But Super Bowl contending level?
Fade this. Jimmy Garoppolo has never even played a full season. You can add Antonio Brown, but he's a head case that quit on his team in the middle of a playoff run. Running back is a question mark. Jerick McKinnon, fine, but he's not a Super Bowl caliber running back. Kittle looked fine, but again, Kittle's not going to push this over the hump. The defense is 27th in DVOA against the pass, and last time I checked, this is a passing league. If you can't defend the pass, going to be difficult to move through the playoffs. And last but not least, they've got to go beat the Seahawks. They've got to beat the Rams. They're good. They're exciting. They're going to be fun to watch. But Super Bowl, that's a tall order.
All right, guys, Case Keenum told the Sports Spectrum podcast he was definitely shocked by the Broncos' decision to trade for Joe Flacco. Keenum, he wasn't great in his first season with Denver, but did prove he's a formidable quarterback when he was in Minnesota. So the Broncos could choose to keep him as a backup, cut him, or try to trade him. So chase or fade, the Broncos should keep Keenum in case Flacco doesn't work out. So Pierce, we know how big of a Flacco fan you are.
They should keep him because what are you going to get from him if you trade him? Joe Flacco was worth a 4th-round pick. So what's Case Keenum worth? Pretty much nothing. And I think he has a purpose in this league. There's a lot of contending teams or playoff teams that would love to have him as a serviceable backup. Unfortunately, the Broncos are not one of those playoff teams, and the playoff teams are really not going to want to trade for Case Keenum. Maybe they cut him and some team picks him up, but otherwise, I think he's just going to sit on the bench and collect dust, at least until, Steve seems to think that Joe Flacco is going to get injured in the 4th week. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Reed, do you keep him because you don't really have any other option? What are you going to get for him?
Yeah, Pierce is absolutely right. You keep Case Keenum. We saw what he was as a backup in Minnesota. Really good, right? And you're not going to get anything. Look, Flacco was a Super Bowl MVP. Granted, over his last 51 starts, he has the lowest touchdown percentage, lowest yards per average, and he sucks, right? So we know what Flacco is. Having said that, the stats are pretty much the same with Case Keenum, and you're not going to be able to get fair market value. And let's just call a spade here. Elway as a GM is trash. And if you, I went to school in Colorado, and he is the patron saint in that state. He's got car dealership. He could do no wrong, but clearly in the position that we think that he is superior in trying to evaluate a quarterback, he does not do that well. With Flacco, having said that, he doesn't have guaranteed money. You can cut him before the season starts, which is asinine if you give up a 4th-round pick for him. And you're not necessarily tied that much to Flacco. And this truly could be something where Elway is hoping that if he doesn't see Kyler Murray falling to him in the draft, which we'll talk about, he could be using this as something, or as a bridge quarterback, which is weird to say about Flacco, again, being what he was back when he won the Super Bowl and got that MVP, to get in that 2020 draft class for the quarterbacks. But you keep Case Keenum.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Murray here, Reed. He's the face of the 2019 NFL draft right now. The Dolphins have the best odds to draft him at plus 250. Miami has the 13th pick here, so you got to chase your fade. If they want Murray, I mean, they're going to have to trade up to get him, right? There's no way he gets by the Giants at like 6, Jacksonville at 7.
Exactly. And the Giants probably are going to go with Haskins if other rumors aren't true about some other quarterbacks potentially showing up in the Big Apple. But yeah, Jacksonville at 7. Look, the Broncos, right? Could Vic Fangio and John Elway potentially do this and even move up even closer to getting Kyler Murray as that, as a dual threat, whatever you want to call him, as a quarterback? Vic Fangio, I think they're going to go defense in that draft. But even a dark horse is Cincinnati. Like the Bengals, they know what they have with Andy Dalton. He's not a good quarterback. So could you reverse what's been happening in Cincinnati for the last 5 to 10 years with a bad quarterback and a bad offense, and have really Kyler Murray after Joe Mixon, AJ Green, and Tyler Eifert coming back off injury? That could be a formidable offense to deal with. So absolutely, there are a lot of different ways that you could cut Kyler Murray, or the guys in Miami who were first reported to want to wait till 2020 and cut Tannehill and just use this year to really get in that 2020 QB draft class. They would definitely have to move up to get him.
What do you think here, Pierce? Or maybe they decide to go Ohio State's Dwayne Haskins, or team ahead of them maybe decides to do that?
Well, I'll chase that even if they do. If they want Haskins, they're going to have to move up as well. If you're a top drafting team anywhere, 1 through 5 or even 7, I would just draft a quarterback just to use them as a chip to trade to another team. You look at the free agent quarterback market, there's nobody there. And you look at the quarterback market in the draft, it's Haskins and Murray. Other than that, there's nobody there. So just basic, simple economics. The supply is low, the demand is high, the price is going to go through the roof. A 13th pick is not going to get it done. You're going to need at least a top 5 pick to get one of these guys. They're going to go quick. If I'm an NFL GM, I'm going to be basically working the phone for the next month, trying to use one of those top 5 picks to basically leverage or negotiate with the team who's desperate for a quarterback, which a lot of people are desperate, including the Denver Broncos. We think that they fixed stuff with Flacco. John Elway could wake up tomorrow and say, I made a huge mistake. I've got to go get Haskins.
Well, guys, rumors were swirling today that Russell Wilson is hoping to replace Eli Manning in New York in the coming years. That's because of his wife, that would be Sierra, her celebrity status. So they want to be in New York. I mean, chase or fade, we think this happens, or we even think this is a good idea, Pierce.
Why do you have to be in New York and play football in New York? He's going to play half his games on the road. The football season is, only 4 or 5 months? Why do you have to live in the town that you play in? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't get he's really rich. He went to college. They're smart people. You don't have to live in the same town. But whatever, if he wants to go to New York, they have a really good team. Well, I'm sorry, they don't have a really good team. They have some exciting players to play with. Beckham's still there. If Saquon Barkley's there, if Evan Ingram's there, then yeah, it could be really interesting for him to be there. But who knows what it's going to look like by the time he shows up.
But, Pierce, if they do get him in the coming years and they have some of those pieces, do you think he could help take them and be Super Bowl contenders, do we think?
Not unless they're playing the Patriots.
I mean, how does he get there? That's the question. How does he get here? Do the Seahawks even want to trade him with years left on his contract?
Yeah, that's a good question. Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, and he's going to be expensive too, right? Yeah. They need more help. Why not get a cheaper guy? And we always say this, right? Get these quarterbacks on these rookie contracts for the first 4 years. And Dwayne Haskins looks like the best, the most NFL-ready quarterback in New York. He's from New York, so that just makes more sense. Yes, that Russell Wilson and this Colin Cowherd just mentioned this, right? And said he's heard rumors about this, and he mentions that the Christian Pulisic, when he went to the EPL, it's the same thing where he heard rumors and then it happened a couple months. But Pierce is right. Like, you don't have to be, especially with these guys and the money that they make. You don't think they're flying private from New York to Seattle all the time. Like, you don't need to be in New York. And I get it. Pat Shurmur is a quarterback coach, and the idea of Saquon Barkley, Russell Wilson, and OBJ as a 3-man tandem in that offense does present some upside, but they need a lot of help. They need help on offensive line. draft Dwayne Haskins, save your money, and get offensive line. Don't worry about Russell Wilson and where he wants to go and where CR wants him to go.
Yeah, Reed mentioned it. Colin Cowherd started this thing, but he noted the rumor was coming from the entertainment/agent world and that everybody would likely deny it, but suggested Wilson to the Giants would make sense.
It would not be the first time we saw a good quarterback take a pay cut because he had a wife who made a lot of money too. Tom Brady. All right, one more block to go, guys. Let's make it count. We're going quad box with our NBA panel after Adam Kaufman gets us caught up in the latest in the land of the Celtics.
Specific to tonight against the Bucks, Kyrie back from his knee strain after missing 6 of 11, entering the break, playing 25 minutes then in the exhibition, then yelling at the media about that chat with Kevin Durant that we discussed. What should we expect from him on the floor in this one?
I mean, I think they're going to be a fired-up team. I think Kyrie's going to be ready to lead this team. I think now they understand they can't mess around here. I think the second or third seed, the attainable second seed, is a little bit of a stretch. You know, they're 5.5 back, but that third seed where they get a home playoff series, and then they might have to head to Toronto, for that Eastern Conference semis, but I think they can get Milwaukee. I think they feel like they can get Milwaukee, although it's going to be a stretch to make up that ground. But they've got to put together some quality wins. They played well of late. They've done well. Then all of a sudden they had those 2 losses to the LA teams and put everything in upheaval. But then they came back and won their last 2 games, including a good win in Philadelphia. But I think Kyrie's going to want to prove that he is the centerpiece of this team, considering that they won those last 2 games without him. He's going to, I think, be ready. I think it's going to be an entertaining game tonight. I think it'll go down to the wire.
Final block of the show. And we had to do it to him. Quad box, please. Julian, Alex, Chris, and Karin, our basketball panel, back to give us their showdown picks for tonight's Celtics-Bucks game as we close in on lock here.
Okay, as we told you guys about 20 minutes ago, the Celtics are going to be without Gordon Hayward tonight. He has been ruled out. So who do you expect to have a boost in their production with him out? Julian.
Yeah, I'm looking at Marcus Morris here for starters. He's just been kind of the Celtics' most consistent player, honestly. Maybe not their best, but most consistent this season. So with that hole, and Hayward actually was playing really well those last 5 games before the All-Star break for all the heat he's taken this season for not playing up to his expectations. So I'm starting with Morris here, and then there's always going to be some trickle-down effect to guys like Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, but I think Morris is the main guy, the one guy here that you want to target the most.
Alex, who picks up the slack?
Yeah, Marcus Morris is a good call. I mean, when you look at the kind of on-off stats with Gordon Hayward off the floor, nobody really jumps out, which is a little strange. So the guy to me who looks like he gets the most bumps in statistics is Jaylen Brown. So that's personally the way I'd be leaning. He's kind of the same type of wing player as Gordon Hayward, can handle the ball a little bit. So if I had to pick one player, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown.
Chris, we got a Morris, we got a Brown. Who are you going with?
Yeah, those would be the 2 guys I was going to go with as well. Jaylen Brown, the second unit, is usually what he's sharing with Gordon Hayward. So without Hayward on the floor, it should be some more usage for him in that group. And Marcus Morris, I think you'll see pick up some minutes that Hayward leaves behind. And I'll throw one more in there too. Marcus Smart, I think, could end up seeing more minutes here as a defensive sub primarily. And he hasn't been afraid of shooting threes, and the Bucks give up the most threes in the league. So I think Smart could end up having a little more fantasy value than people realize.
All right, Karin, I think these 3 guys have named just about everybody. So what do you have to add?
Brad Stevens. No, I'm just playing. I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. Like everyone said, listen, you can look at Marcus Morris and just since he's a regular starter for them, and even Marcus Smart, reading that piece on Bleacher Report about him today, really got me looking at him in such a big game for the night. But I just think it's going to be Jaylen Brown for this big game this evening.
Guys, Giannis is still listed as probable for this one. He's been dealing with that sore knee. So if he does go, does that sore knee scare you off him at all, Alex?
It doesn't really scare me off using him. I'm a little more hesitant to use him as my captain, which I think I'll get to later, because I think maybe his upside is not as high. There's also a possibility he tweaks it. But overall, I mean, the right knee soreness, it's something he's kind of dealt with throughout the year. It doesn't seem to have hindered him too much. So it's not really scaring me off of him entirely.
Chris, you scared by that sore knee?
Yeah.
I am not terrified. I am a little more terrified of the Celtics for Giannis in general. He's been pretty bad versus them this year. But I agree. Alex is right. I think there's been a lot of knee issues for Giannis all year. He knows how to work through them. He's been fine. He played fine in the All-Star game. I think it's not a lingering concern. And he was looking really good for the All-Star break as well. 5 straight games over 60 fantasy points. So I think he's going to keep that going today.
Karin, I know you're not shelling out $9,200 for a guy who might have a sore knee.
Nope. I am a little scared about this. He doesn't play well against the Celtics. You know, this is a knee thing, and the way their offense is built is about off what Giannis can do and what he can create for everyone. And coming off when you basically had a week off to relax and rehab and get that thing better, if you're still probable for the first game back after the break, which is such a huge game with a national audience, I am a little scared about it.
Julian, you scared?
Did we watch the All-Star game? Giannis was jumping out of the building. He had the MVP in the bag until they gave up that 19-point lead in the third quarter. No, I'm not scared at all. Maybe I'll fade him on the main slate, but this is a one-game slate. You have to play Giannis in some fashion. As I think Alex said, I don't know if we can captain him, but he's going to be in your lineup in some fashion. He's averaging around 70 DraftKings points in his last 5 games. He had 83 DraftKings points the last game before the All-Star break. If you watch the All-Star game, you know he looked fine. He's probable tonight. He's going to play, and he's going to play pretty well. He has averaged just about 54 points, DK points in 2 matchups against the Celtics this season, so maybe the matchup slows him down a little bit more than the knee.
All right, Julian, but which other Bucks do you like in this one with the Greek Freak probable and knowing he's not fully healthy?
Yeah, I think I'll look at Chris Middleton, who is a solid play on this slate. I think because of the Hayward news, I know it's not that many minutes, but he had been playing a lot better lately. I think we get most of that value that we went over at the top of the segment from the Celtics. So I would pay up for somebody like Chris Middleton here in the mid-range and look towards the Celtics for value on this slate.
Chris, which other Bucks do you like not named Greek Freak?
I think Malcolm Brogdon is the other guy who, from a value perspective, makes sense to me. I actually kind of worry about the usage of the Eric Bledsoes and Chris Middletons. I think Nikola Mirotic is going to take a lot of that off the table, or at least a significant amount, where those guys' prices are, it's going to be tough for them to hit value. Brogdon's cheap. He does enough peripherally where I think he looks fine. And again, he's cheap. He's going to help you afford some of the better guys for the showdown slate.
All right, Karin, which Bucks stand out to you here?
I don't like any of them, to tell the truth, but if I had to pick someone, to be Malcolm Brogdon. You look at how that team is constructed and how they play, everything is based off Giannis. And if he's not going to play, none of those guys are really shot creators. You look at Middleton, you look at Bledsoe, and we know Mirotic is going to make his debut tonight. He's kind of a stretch forward. He's not really out there making other guys better. So if I could stay away from any of the Bucks, I would. But if I had to take one, it would be Brogdon.
Hey, Alex, Mirotic maybe in his debut?
It's probably worth a shot in GPPs. He's a little expensive, and it's not exactly clear where the minutes are coming from. Maybe just DJ Wilson and Ersan Ilyasova really won't play, and that's easy 25 minutes there. So, yeah, I mean, you get the bonus for 3-pointers on DraftKings. You kind of play the system there, and he could definitely hit 5-6 threes if he gets hot. The Bucks could go small ball. He could play center. So, I think Mirotic is actually a fair option that people might. It's possible they overlook. I mean, a lot of these guys didn't necessarily mention him.
All righty.
All right, Karin, we need to talk captains here. Now, I can see Pat Mayo is watching, so this better be good, all right? So 1.5 times the salary, 1.5 times the points. I know you don't like to spend that money, but you got to do it. Karin, who are you taking?
I'm taking a pissed off Kyrie Irving based off the video we saw of him the other day getting mad about his secret congregations with his new BFF, Kevin Durant. That was a newsworthy thing for me as a journalist. Like, I didn't know he and Kevin Durant were BFFs and so tight. But give me Kyrie mad, angry first game back. I expected him to make a big night.
Julian, your captain, please.
Yeah, well, I want Kyrie and the Greek Freak both in my lineup. So the way to do that is to look down a little bit at captain. So Marcus Morris is a guy that I think benefits a lot from the Gordon Hayward news. But if I'm not going there, it's going to be Al Horford. He was playing really well before the All-Star break. He's played really well in a matchup against Milwaukee this season. He had almost 40 DK points. So I think that we can fit Horford in there and still get the big names.
Alex, your captain.
It's Al Horford for me. Over the past 10 games, 4 of them, he's gone over 48 DraftKings points. Across that stretch as a whole, he's averaging 40 DraftKings points. I think, like we mentioned, if you're trying to pay down a little bit, for captain with some upsides. You can get some other high-priced players in your lineup. Horford, in my opinion, is the safest guy for a go-to there.
Chris, we need you captain.
I'm also going to go Al Horford, so I'll make it 3 in a row. I think he looks good here for all the reasons those guys mentioned. His rebounding rate was on the rise before the All-Star break. I think what he loses with Kyrie being back in the lineup, he actually will gain a little bit back from Gordon Hayward being out. So I'm comfortable with him, and he's also been pretty good versus Milwaukee dating back to the playoffs last year. So Al Horford's my guy.
45 seconds left in this show. Slate approved pick time. Who is it going to be, Alex?
It's Clint Capella. He feels underpriced to me here. He's got a lot of 40, 50 DraftKings points games under his belt. First game back, I'm not scared.
Christopher?
DeMarcus Cousins, for me, he's going to be the highest owned guy in the slate, it looks like. Just match the field with him. Trust the process. He hates the Kings, and he's very spiteful.
Thank you, Chris. Tell your dogs we said hello. Karin?
The same person I pick every time you guys ask me this, James Harden.
Oh, yeah. Julian. Slate approved for the whole slate.
I'm on Boogie as well. If you want a different center play, I guess go Boban with no Joel Embiid.
Guys.
Lineups are locked.
Wonderful
Just
job.
kidding. Bye.